Good morning, folks. I've enjoyed reading all of your posts that give your history and information about yourselves, and it's time now to get started with the course in earnest. You can see on the screen here that I've logged into Blackboard, and I've clicked on the Week 1 tab on the left side, and these are our items that are under Week 1. Basically, from this point forward for the week, your next assignment is to read Chapter 1 in the textbook. And if you've not picked it up yet, this is what it looks like. It's IFSTA's building construction related to the fire service. As you read through Chapter 1, the author is giving some very general guidance on the construction process and the construction industry. And he talks about some of the constraints associated with having buildings constructed. And I think the thing to keep in mind as you read is that construction companies build buildings for profit. That's their business. And so the highest good in construction is always profitability. And you're going to see throughout this course how that drives a lot of how the codes got developed and how things get constructed. When you've read all of Chapter 1, you can come down to the bottom of this tab and you'll see there's a link here to the IFSTA Chapter 1 quiz. And that'll give you an opportunity to take a multiple choice quiz on the content of the chapter. After you've completed the quiz, it will give you feedback both on how you scored on the quiz as well as if you missed any of the correct answers to the questions that you missed. Once you've completed the quiz, I would like you to watch this video on wall collapse by Chief Vincent Dunn of the Fire Department of New York. It's about a 25-minute video, and it's part of a series of 5 videos that you'll watch throughout the course. This one deals with how walls, primarily how masonry constructed walls in commercial buildings collapse under fire conditions. Finally, before we wrap up today, I wanted to talk briefly about this video of a building collapse caught on tape. This is something we do frequently throughout the course, just to kind of analyze how structures failed. So I'll cue the video, we'll watch it through one time, and then I'll have some comments about it.
Dramatic video coming to us from eastern Belgium this morning. That was a 5-story building collapsing after a powerful explosion that happened about 2 a.m. local time. At least 20 people were injured, 2 of them critically. Rescue workers are now searching for more survivors. Local officials suspect that a gas leak is actually to blame. Those are the kind of pictures you normally see in a controlled explosion, not something like that, Dave. Ooh.
So as you saw there, so here you're going to see a video of a building collapse. This is going to be a multi-story, multi-family residential structure of masonry construction.
Coming to us from eastern Belgium this morning. That was a 5-story building collapsing after a powerful explosion that happened about 2 a.m. local time. At least 20 people were injured, 2 of them critically. Rescue workers are now searching for more survivors. Local officials suspect that a gas leak is actually to blame. Those are the kind of pictures you normally see in a controlled explosion, not something like that, Dave. Ooh.
So here you see the results of a gas explosion, but the gas explosion was not actually shown in the video. It happened at some point earlier. If we cue the video, though, we can kind of walk through this slowly and see if we can identify how this collapse occurred. So here's a good shot. You can see the incipient stage of the collapse, and if you look carefully, you can see that this wall has started to bow out. Additionally, you see some fractures out here, some fissures on the outside. And this is basically, anytime you have a fissure, you have to be thinking about tension. This is where the material is expanding in length, but doesn't have the tensile strength to maintain its integrity. And masonry is well known for strong compressive strength but weak tensile strength. And so what you're starting to see here is that basically this wall is taking on a bow shape, with the exterior of the wall getting longer, which means that it's in tension. And masonry structures are not going to resist that well. Now, if you think about how this happened, the only way that this can happen is that this joint between the wall and the floor has been lost in the explosion. So enough force was developed in the explosion to break the joint between the wall and the floor, and the result is that this wall now becomes a slender column, and it's kind of like a long piece of spaghetti. If you push on either end of it, it's going to bow in the middle, and it's going to buckle, and it's going to fail in buckling, and that's exactly what you're witnessing here. We'll talk a lot more about slender columns and how critical the floor-to-wall connection is in structures as we go through the course. To give you some perspective on how little pressure it actually takes to create these large forces to break the wall and floor connection, I do have a chart from NFPA 921, the Standard for Fire and Explosion Investigation, which we'll look at in just a moment. So particularly problematic with an escape or a collapse of this type is that that wall was a load-bearing wall. It was holding up the floors, and as that comes out, the floors that it was supporting are likely to collapse. So if you're inside that building, your likelihood of making it out of there is pretty low. This is a chart from NFPA 921, the in Standard for Investigation of Explosions and Fires. And on the left side of the chart, they list overpressure in pounds per square inch. So if you can imagine this building filled up with gas, the gas found an ignition source, and it rapidly burned. And one of the things we know is that when a gas burns and is heated, it expands. However, if that expansion is constrained by the walls and the roof and floor of the building, pressure inside the building is going to increase. So you'll notice that these are all pretty small numbers, and in fact, if we come down to partial collapse of walls, shattering of non-reinforced concrete or cinder block wall panels, we find that basically about somewhere between 2 and 3 pounds per square inch is enough to cause the type of collapse that you just witnessed. Not a lot of pressure. You think about the pressure in your car tires, maybe 30 or 40 pounds per square inch. But what makes it work is the fact that that pressure is exerted over such a large area on the inside of the walls, and that develops sufficient force to break that wall-floor connection, which is critical to the integrity of the building. To summarize, you have several things to accomplish before midnight on Sunday. I hope this has been informative for you. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to contact me at the information listed in the syllabus.